She went to the family funeral. She cried. She hugged the relatives. She went through the whole ritual. And at some point between the grief and the drive back home, she decided to make the most of the trip in a different way. He stayed here waiting for her to come back. She came back. Normal, smiling, as if nothing had happened. 3 months later, a random TikTok video about nice cars destroyed everything she had built. She didn't see it coming. Nobody ever does.
My girlfriend traded 8 years of relationship for a guy who destroyed her. She had never mentioned any of those substances a single day in her life. 8 years together, 8 years. And then out of nowhere, she came home with something she had never touched before. I should have caught it right there. But you don't catch it when you're in love. You explain it. You justify it. You tell yourself you know the person. I didn't know anything. My name doesn't matter. What matters is that I was 31 years old, had an 8-year girlfriend named Marble, and I was a few months away from getting down on one knee in front of her with a ring in my hand. I had already researched the styles. I had already noted down what she liked. I already knew the restaurant, the day, the exact words I was going to say. 8 years of building for that, and she was quietly taking it all apart while I was planning our future together. When we met in college, Marble was exactly the type of woman I was looking for. Focused, serious about her studies, not the type of person who goes out to parties every week and disappears into the crowd. She drank socially but knew when to stop. I never saw her lose control, never saw her do something stupid on impulse. That was what I loved about her. So when she came home saying she wanted to try something new, I found it strange, but I gave her the benefit of the doubt. That was the biggest mistake of my life. I tried to be reasonable. I suggested starting with something easier and less aggressive. Makes sense. She agreed immediately. But then days later, she came home with something stronger. To smoke, fight, argument. She said I couldn't control what she did with her own body. Fine, I let it go. My father died of lung cancer, so I wasn't going anywhere near that stuff. But her, she did it her way. Every Friday, on the balcony.
Man, that detail about the balcony got me. Because it seems normal, right? It seems reasonable. And that's exactly where something starts swallowing you whole without you seeing it.
Then the frequency changed. Let me explain how the mind of someone who is investigating something works when they haven't yet admitted to themselves that they're investigating. You start noticing patterns. Before it was just Fridays, then it became twice a week, then 3 times. And the amount. That increased too. She said she was getting a good deal on the price. I did the math and it didn't add up. The guy who supplied her was named Jared. She would mention Jared casually. A name here, another one there, and then suddenly she stopped mentioning him altogether. That silence was the first real clue. Because when you stop mentioning a name you used to mention before, it's because someone warned you that you were mentioning it too much. I wasn't going to snoop through her phone. I had never done that. 8 years, never. But I'm not an idiot either. I picked up her phone when she was in the shower. I went into the messages. I looked for the name Jared. The conversation was there. At first it all looked normal. Delivery arrangement texts, address, time, very transactional. But then I noticed the number of messages didn't match the number of times she had come home with anything. Way less text than expected. Almost no calls. She was going there in person, without leaving a trace. But she hadn't deleted everything. I scrolled up, and I found the message. From Jared to her, "You coming today," followed by an emoji that made the intention very clear. I don't need to explain that for you, but that wasn't even what really broke me. What broke me was when I scrolled all the way back to the beginning of the conversation. You know what I found? Her introducing herself to him. Her messaging first, saying she had seen him at an event with a mutual friend, had asked for his contact, and that she found him interesting and wanted to get to know him better. The story she had told me was the complete opposite of that. She told me she had always been curious about trying new things, and that Jared had come along as a supplier after the fact. No, she saw Jared first. She became interested in Jared, and she invented a reason to keep talking to him. The substances were the excuse. Jared was the objective. I exported the conversation history to my phone. Then I waited. When I found the right moment, I sat down with her. Normal tone of voice. I asked how she had met Jared. She repeated the fake version. Without hesitating, fluently, I just nodded. Then I asked her directly, was there anything beyond friendship between her and Jared? Her face changed. It didn't turn to stone, but it got close. Why are you asking me that? I didn't answer. I repeated the question. Of course not, right? I said I had heard other things. She wanted to know who had told me. She asked if it was her friend. Right there I realized the friend knew something, because that was the first name that came to her mind, but I didn't confirm it. I said it wasn't the friend. She got nervous, pushed harder, became more aggressive. Then I said, I saw it on your phone. What happened next was surgical to observe. She went straight into defense mode. Said I had no right, said there was nothing there that proved anything, said it was a lie, but then she picked up her own phone and started scrolling through the messages.
An innocent person doesn't do that. An innocent person asks what you saw. A guilty person goes straight to check what's still there.
I pointed that out to her out loud. She stopped, kept staring at the screen, and then her face went cold when she landed on that message. She still tried. Said it was an inside joke, that Jared was like that with everyone, that I didn't know his sense of humor. I picked up the phone and started dialing Jared's number. She stood completely still for about 3 seconds. Then she asked me to hang up. She confirmed it, said it had happened, that it wasn't something planned to last, that she just wanted a little excitement, that she still loved me. That was exactly why she had been hiding it, because she didn't want to lose me. I listened to everything. Then I told her to pack her things. She left that day. She tried to contact me many times after, tried to rekindle things. I never gave her any opening. The last time she came to pick up her stuff, there was a guy with her in a pickup truck. I'm pretty certain I know who that was. I let her take everything and walked away. Months later, she called with a strange voice. I asked if she had been using. She said no, but it was convincing zero. She said she needed help. I said I wasn't giving her money. She sent a photo after. I'm not going to describe it much. I'll just say she didn't look like the person I had spent 8 years next to. The message explained it. She had gone down a path she couldn't come back from with Jared. Had tried to stop. Couldn't. She wanted to enter a treatment program, but Jared wouldn't cover it. She asked me to pay directly to the center without going through her hands. I'm not made of stone. I arranged to meet her in front of the clinic. I arrived early, waited 2 hours. She didn't show up. Didn't answer calls, didn't respond to messages. I left the receptionist's contact with her in case she showed up. I never heard back. She sent a message later with excuses. I saw she was alive. I blocked her number. She showed up at my door one day. I didn't open it. She stopped existing to me the day I closed that door. The ring I was going to buy, it stayed in a draft in my phone's notes app. I deleted it a long time ago. The apartment is exactly the way I like it. Silent, organized, just mine. Jared kept existing. She kept existing, somewhere, not in my life. I moved forward. She stayed behind.
A random TikTok video exposed my wife. I sent the audio to her mother. I'm 36 years old. My name? I was married to Chloe, 37, for 6 years. 6 years I thought were solid. We weren't perfect. No couple is. But I genuinely loved her. That kind of love you don't question, because it seems too obvious to need any proof. She was European. Her entire family was over there. She came back to her country once every 3 or 4 years. I never went with her because work and schedule didn't allow it, but I never suspected anything either. That's the part that hurts the most when you look back. You don't suspect because you trust. And when that trust falls apart, you spend time wondering if you were naive or if you were truly deceived. Both things can be true at the same time. 3 months ago, someone in her family in Europe passed away. Chloe went. Of course, it was necessary. I completely understood. She stayed over there for a few weeks. Normal calls, normal messages, nothing out of the ordinary. I had no reason to suspect anything, but now I know that while I was here waiting for her to come back, she was riding around in a BMW with a man who wasn't me.
I have a friend who is obsessed with cars. Not in the casual way most people like cars. He follows car spotting content creators from all over the world. He can identify the model, year and trim just by seeing the hood. That kind of person. I accepted without thinking much about it. When I got there, I noticed he was acting strange. He wasn't at ease. He spent the first few minutes talking about nothing, clearly stalling. So I asked him directly what was going on. He said he had something to show me, that it had more to do with me than with him. And that before he showed me, he wanted to warn me that I probably wasn't going to like it. He handed me his phone. It was a TikTok video. A European content creator who specialized in filming nice cars on the street had approached a very well-maintained classic BMW camera in hand. He walked up to the driver's window to ask the usual questions. The driver answered happily. He seemed to enjoy the attention. The woman in the passenger seat turned her face away. Fast, calculated, but not fast enough. Said I should think before acting. I was already thinking, just not in the way he expected. My mind went straight into analysis mode. I tried, honestly, to find any explanation that wasn't the most obvious one. Why does a woman turn her face away from a random camera on the street? Shyness? Chloe wasn't shy. Never was. Not wanting to appear in a video? Possible. But that wasn't like her. Being with someone she didn't want to be seen with, that was the only one that made sense. The driver was a slightly older man, visibly wealthy. The car said that on its own. If it had been a relative, a cousin, an uncle, any family member, there would be no reason to hide her face. She loves her family. She would never treat them like something to hide. And she had never told me anything about going for a drive with someone or about running into a content creator. Those kinds of details come up in conversation, naturally. The absence of that detail was itself a detail. I checked the location of the video creator.
same country she had visited, same time period as her trip. There was nothing left to analyze. I had two options: confront or investigate. Confronting without concrete proof left room for lies. Investigating a story that happened on another continent months ago was nearly impossible. A private investigator wouldn't solve it. She didn't live there. The trail was minimal. Her phone was the last option. And even then, if it had been a one-night encounter, the chances of there still being anything there were low. I decided to try anyway. I waited for the right moment. She was asleep. I picked up her phone. I went into the conversations trying to find anything that confirmed what I already knew deep down. 10 minutes of searching, nothing conclusive in the conversations with family. Then she woke up. She came downstairs, saw me with the phone in my hand, asked if I had her phone. It was in my hand. There was no point denying it. She asked what I was doing. I said I was trying to find an answer to something. I handed her the phone. She sat down next to me, looked at me waiting for me to speak. So I asked what she had done when she went to Europe. She said she had gone because of the family bereavement. I asked if that was all. Silence. I asked again. More silence. Then I went straight to it. I said I had seen a video of her inside a car with another man, and that it was clear she hadn't wanted to be filmed. I saw her face change immediately. Before she said anything, I warned her that she didn't know how much I already knew, that I needed her to tell me the truth before I was forced to reveal what I had already found out. She sat there evaluating me for a few seconds. Then she deflated. She confirmed it was her in the video. I asked who the man was. She said his name was Werner, that I didn't know him, that he was a family friend. I pressed harder. She said he was an old family friend, that it had been a very long time since they had seen each other. I asked why she had turned her face away from the camera. Her answer was, no particular reason. I let out a dry laugh. Someone who hasn't done anything wrong doesn't turn their face away from a random camera on the street and then answers with no particular reason when questioned about it. I told her I knew that wasn't true. That's when she said she wanted to tell me the truth but didn't want it to affect our relationship, that we could work through it together. I already knew where that was going. She confirmed that Werner had been someone she was interested in when they were both teenagers and young adults, that they had been involved in the past, before our marriage. I asked if she had been involved with him again this time. She was silent for 2 seconds. 2 seconds were enough. I stood up and left the room.
2 seconds of silence. That was the marriage walking out the door. No fight, no shouting, just silence.
I needed to get out. I went for a walk. No destination. I just needed air and silence outside that apartment. During that walk, something became clear to me. I already knew the answer was divorce. There was no room for negotiation at that point. I can't stay with someone I don't trust. And there's no way to trust someone who did this. But before the divorce, I needed one thing. I needed the confession on record. I went back home with my phone in my pocket, audio recording running before I walked into the room. I sat down in front of her and said I wanted to talk honestly, that I needed to understand what had led her to do this. She talked. She said it was nostalgia, that Werner had been part of a past she hadn't lived in a very long time, that the two of them had grown up and gone their separate ways, that she hadn't expected it to happen again. She said she did it because she thought she would never be found out, that it was a moment of adrenaline during a period when she was dealing with the pain of her family's grief. I listened carefully. I felt empathy for the pain of her grief. Loss is loss, and it genuinely hurts. But grief is not a justification for cheating. I let her talk long enough. She confirmed everything I needed confirmed. When she stopped, I calmly told her we were getting divorced. She tried to argue, said it could be worked through, that we could get past it. I was immovable. There was no opening. There was no negotiation. It took about 10 minutes for her to accept that I was serious. I scheduled a meeting with a lawyer the next day. The process was less traumatic than I expected. We reached an agreement on the division. I kept the house, which was what mattered most to me. It's close to work. It's in the neighborhood I love. I wasn't giving it up. I pay spousal support, which I would have paid anyway if it had gone to a judge. But the house stayed with me. She knew she was in the wrong. That helped. There was no way she could stand in front of a judge and pretend she was the victim of something. Divorce signed. Official. I need to be honest here. After the divorce was finalized, I still had that thing sitting in my chest. It wasn't explosive anger. It was the feeling that she had gotten through all of it without paying anything real. Did she cry when I found out? Yes. But crying isn't a consequence. Crying is a reaction. She had cheated, lied for 3 months, looked me in the eyes without flinching. And, in the end, she walked out of the marriage with part of the assets and without anyone else knowing what she had done. That didn't sit right with me. I started thinking about how to change that. And then I remembered her family. Anyone who knows Chloe's European family knows they're not people of half measures. Serious, disciplined, demanding. The kind of family that doesn't treat mistakes as things that just happen. They treat them as character failures. Chloe always said that growing up in that family was suffocating because of that any slip became the whole family's business, that the pressure to be impeccable was constant. Her mother was the epicenter of all of it. I had met her a few times, a woman of strong presence, few words, and sky-high expectations. I didn't warm up to her from the beginning, that type of person who evaluates you before greeting you. But I knew exactly what that woman represented to Chloe, and I had a recording. We got straight to the point after the formalities. She had already heard Chloe's version, that we had grown apart, and the marriage no longer made sense. Clean version, convenient version. I confirmed the divorce. I said I had done everything within my power, but that her daughter hadn't done the same, and that was why things had reached the point they had. I could feel through the phone that she wanted details, so I gave them. I told her that Chloe had been unfaithful to me during her last visit to Europe. The mother didn't believe it immediately. She said Chloe had given a completely different version, that she had said they had simply grown in different directions. I said that was a lie, and that I had proof. She asked for it. I sent the recording. She hung up. She listened. She called back. The first thing she said was an apology. Her voice had a mix of shame and anger that was hard to separate. She said they had raised their daughter differently than this, that she didn't understand why she had gone back to that boy who was never any good. I didn't need to ask anything more. What happened after that, I didn't witness, but I know that family well enough to know. The mother told the father. The father called the family together, and the family handled the matter the way that family always handles any matter. Without filter, without diplomacy, in front of everyone. Chloe hadn't been at the center of the family's attention since her mid-20s. I put her right back there. I knew exactly when the main moment happened, because my phone rang. It was Chloe, crying hard, asking why over and over again. I lost count of how many times she asked. I held back the urge to laugh. I said I had called her mother and that the subject had come up naturally. She said I knew what was going to happen if I talked to her mother. I said yes, I knew. She said I could have lied, made something up. I replied that I wasn't like her, that I preferred to tell the truth. She said I had ruined her life. I had just helped Karma find the right address. She said I was cruel. I said I was learning from her. Doesn't it mean anything that I said sorry? I hung up. It was too much conversation for too little result. She sent a message after, said I was a horrible person and that she was glad we weren't together anymore. I replied that I was too, and it was true.
Two stories. Two men who did everything right, who trusted, built, planned their futures, and were betrayed by routine, by nostalgia, and by the illusion that they would never be found out. If there's one thing these two stories teach, is that the truth always finds a way. Sometimes it arrives, through a phone, sometimes through TikTok, but it always arrives. Comment below which of the two stories hit you harder.